Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and what the hell do we care now? We're here on a Thursday night to preview a game on a Friday night. We're in League Cup action against Falkirk this weekend. We're here to have a wee preview chat of the game. We've had Brendan Rodgers' pre-game press conference. Maybe some developments in the transfer window. We'll see. I'm Quinny as always, and I'm joined by my co-host, my partner in crime. I was going to think of another way of saying it. I was going to say something about colours and stuff like that and blood, but it's just... it's fallen off the back of my brain. But it's McBrideACE. McBride, good to see you.
Hello. I can exclusively reveal that I've not melted yet, and I've done the usual thing that happens when the sun's out in Scotland, and I've poured myself a cold one. So look forward to chatting about Falkirk game, transfer news, press conferences. Should be good.
Should be a good one. And we were just chatting before coming on, McBride. Brendan's press conference has already made some headlines, not really towards the Falkirk game. There was a lot of insight and some chat we'll get into in due course around the Falkirk game, but the main thing that's coming, there's two things coming out of it, right? The first one is he's laughing at anyone. It wasn't me. I didn't do it, right? Maybe some of you out there did, but he was laughing at everyone that says he's sending messages by not wearing ties and belts and stuff like that. So I think the paper's picked up on it, but Brendan's had a few wee barbs over the last 2 or 3 press conferences where he'll say like, I've just been told, or I've heard or I've seen, and it's like, you know, when people were saying, he made a reference last week, McBride, to people saying he's not playing good football, and he didn't say the horseshoe of death, but he almost referenced it directly, then stopped himself from talking. So I don't know if he's watching fan media. We know he loves this channel, obviously, but is he watching all the other fan media, or is this stuff that's been written in the mainstream press? I don't really watch or listen to mainstream press. I don't really know what they're actually reporting on. But that was one of the headlines that came out of it. What do you think when you heard that yourself? Is it he's not sending messages with no tie, is he? It was just the weather, wasn't it?
I think so. Anyway, good evening, Brendan. Thanks again for watching. Hit the like button if you're enjoying the show. I mean, like, people read too much into stuff like that, right? I think, like, he is a guy who's quite big on standards or whatever, and, you know, people will pick up on those wee minor details, but I think, like, it's the start of the season. There's obviously a lot of, like, big games coming up. It's the usual start of season hype, middle of the transfer window, you know, all the sort of fan frustrations with this, that, and the next thing. So I wouldn't read too much into it. But yeah, it's quite calculated, Quinny, as well, right? So you see when he's answering questions and stuff, and I think he was answering a question where in the middle of the answer, he decided he was just going to say that we'd played well in the first couple of games, and he just sort of deviated from the answer. So I do think that there's some things swirling about in his head, because he is usually quite calculated in terms of how he actually answers questions, and that was kind of one of the signs of, well, I better say here that we've started well and not actually be a distraction from the other stuff. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, but it's getting quite frustrating in terms of like these deadlines coming up in big games and just no activity to report. But maybe he's with the deadline for the additional 2 players for the Kairat game or whatever. So it's Tuesday or something. I don't know. Like, so just, yeah, like, surely we'll do something. Like, you know, like, just do something. Like,
surely. And before we get into it, the scout has mentioned it in the chat, right? But before we get into it, we had that from Brendan. The second thing that's kind of made some headlines is him talking about how Celtic notoriously do their business late in the window. And, you know, it's a sad reality. I think every Celtic fan media thing that I listen to or I'm a part of or whatever, everyone said as soon as it became the 1st of June or whenever the window actually opened, forget about it until the last week of August. And here we are, 14th of August, you know, and well, anything happen in the next couple of days, maybe. We'll get into that in a wee second. But for all intents and purposes, it's just as good as being the last week of August before anything happens. So Brendan's kind of putting it out there. He did say about a week ago he would be confident that the club will get the work done. But we've also got some of the in-the-know accounts apparently chatting about how Desmond has been the one maybe putting the block on some of the early summer attempted moves and whatever. So it feels like internal drama everywhere. Did you also see the Segrist quote? Oh, no, you sent me it, actually. I guess sent it from a few places, but you were one of them. The Segrist quotes as well. So it's definitely not a functional transfer department, is it?
It doesn't seem so. I mean, that's the structure of the club, and obviously everybody's went over that at length as well. But it does sort of seem that, you know, Desmond Dermott has got like Desmond. That's the wrong way around. I don't know. I don't care. Just approve some transfers. He's DD, he's got there's a 35% shareholding or whatever, but does have some like financial vetoes or whatever, which means that it's not really operating the way you would really sort of want it to operate. Because really what you would want is to have like a sort of director of football or somebody who's in charge of transfer policy, and they should really be selecting the players within a budget, and like somebody coming along and saying, yeah, we've sold Kuhn for this amount and we're selling this, buy this guy for 5 million, and somebody saying, no, that's above 3 million. That's not really budgeting, right? That's like a different kettle of fish, I guess. So there definitely is something there's some sort of disconnect and stuff in there. And I mean, I guess so. What is the flip side of things? The flip side is, well, we don't know whether we're going to get in the Champions League at the moment. Say we're favourites to get in the Champions League, looking at who we're playing against, but it can go wrong. We know that from the past. And then you're trying to operate on a budget where you've got uncertainty. So maybe the situation is that maybe one of these guys or whatever that we sign, it will just be like, a situation of like, yeah, we would have signed them anyway, but maybe we've got somebody lined up that's like, yeah, we can push the boat out a wee bit on this guy as long as we know we've got that income coming in. And I don't know, Celtic's turnover was 120, 130 million. So 50 million-ish for the Champions League, depending on what happens, is like a big chunk of the turnover, and you'll not get many businesses that will just go out on a whim and just go mental without knowing what the budgeting is going to be. But we've built up reserves there, right? So like I really just don't understand why you could be selling guys and leaving the team short, because surely as a business you want to go into that big sort of deciding sort of tie as prepared as you possibly can to maximize the actual revenue. Whereas we're going in and we're like, there's no Jota. We sold a Kyogo in January. We never really replaced them. We didn't replace them. We've sold Kuhn. We've not bought anybody in that position. Just doesn't really seem to make a lot of sense. But it does sound like there's some things happening, and Brendan said that as well. There's a lot happening in the background, and we're just like, we want one of those unveils. We want somebody actually unveiled that can attack. Like, we don't want to hear it anymore. But how do you feel about it, Quinny?
It's frustrating, man. Because the last couple of windows we've had automatic Champions League qualification, and although like Engels and Ida and all that was still lastminute.com, there was still some movement, and you could tell that they were trying to do stuff just kind of as soon as possible. Whereas this summer, it's clearly felt different, that there's a disconnect, like you say, between the urgency and all that kind of stuff, and actually wanting deals to go through. And the Seagrass thing, some of you guys in the chat are saying, don't listen to disgruntled ex-players, and I get that, fair enough. But the stuff he's chatting about, like, it's not really too much like, oh, Celtic. It's stuff like Celtic didn't respond to a club for a month and didn't respond to emails and calls and stuff like that, you know what I mean? And it doesn't feel like a mad stretch of the imagination that that's the truth, really, from what we know and what we've seen of Celtic from a distance anyway. So yeah, I don't mind taking it with a pinch of salt, but taking it all the same, is adding into some context perhaps. So yeah, frustrating. I put the comment on screen. I didn't realize where it came from. You told me before we came on. I'll let you share that. But there's a lot of people saying Balikwisha inbound. It might be. We've picked up the phone. Finally, we've returned an email or whatever it is we've not been doing. That the club isn't that good at. And Balikwisha McBride, there's someone in the chat, I think it was Square Sausage Mike or Mick, sorry, said there's no news articles, but you can tell us, McBride, what's the noises coming out from Belgium around Balikwisha ahead of the weekend?
Yeah, well, I was doing my Sorare teams yesterday, and I was sort of having a scoot about and stuff, and he missed training. So there definitely is something in these transfers, because Jacob Briem was left out last weekend. He wasn't in the squad at all, and he's like training away for the team and stuff. So it's either one of those where there's speculation and they feel as if it's better like not to affect the group, or there's just real truth in it. But I mean, Balikwisha played at the weekend, scored a penalty, played pretty well. I actually watched some of that game as well because I was needing them for one of my Sorare teams. So I picked up some of the streaming stuff like that as well. And he missed training. So I think that's probably what's triggered some of this stuff. But, it may well be that that's the sort of the tip of the hat, say, right, okay, yeah, get yourself over. Because I think the deadline for the Champions League's tonight, but you can add up to 2 players until Tuesday or something. So like it's not the overall deadline for the squads tonight, but then you've still got a small amount of flexibility because it's within the transfer window. So I'm assuming from that point of view, it means that if you sign somebody, for example, this weekend, that they still could be in the reckoning for the squad for those 2 games. So
yeah, I can see it happening. Some people are reckoning we've maybe moved on from him, but I think the fact that we've clearly got the deal lined up, like we know where Antwerp sit, we know where the player sits at this point. It's been quite well documented that the speculation is based on conversations and negotiations that have happened, and no one else is coming in for him for one reason or another. Maybe that's a good thing or a bad thing. Time will tell on that one. But I can see it. If the word around the street is it's moving, if he's not going to training at the weekend. I was chatting yesterday on the fact McBride how he's actually started the season pretty good for Antwerp. You know, he's been actually pretty involved, and you know, I heard you talking about he was winning penalties, scoring penalties, and all that kind of stuff as well. So I don't think he's really got an injury necessarily to miss training and miss the game at the weekend. Maybe he's picked up a wee niggle. It does happen, you know, but it doesn't feel like that's the case. He's been fully fit and firing, collecting 90 minutes, and yeah, it might be because Antwerp want to sell him. You know, that's quite well documented also at this stage. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is a goer, this is a mover. Maybe he's not in the building to be unveiled at the pitch at Falkirk tomorrow, but maybe over the weekend. It's not impossible because for all intents and purposes, the heavy lifting on the negotiating of this deal has been done over the last 2 months, you know. So really, everyone should know where they sit. And if it is moving now, Celtic have maybe just pushed the button.
I think the interest came out in January, and like at that point, that was round about when he got injured. So it did sort of seem as if like he's been more of a longer term target and just never really transpired because of that sort of injury and things as well. And obviously, Big DD, I mean, he's obviously got other interests like his golf and his businesses and all that type of stuff. But like there's definitely something there which, you know, where the deals are taking longer than like ultimately they really sort of should. But you know, we're at this stage, and the most important thing is we do get some players in now. I mean, it's just unthinkable that we might go into the season and we've just sold Kuhn and we just don't actually buy anybody at all. That would just make no real sense. I know Nygren maybe could move up there a bit, but he's been pretty effective against those low blocks, playing as one of the attacking midfielders, which gives us another tactical sort of angle in there as well. So yeah, I don't know. I'm finding it quite frustrating. I mean, like, I'm just going to be totally honest, like, and I'm a bit ashamed of it as well. But I was offered tickets and stuff for tomorrow night and like Club 67 and stuff. And for the first time in like 2 years, I just said, nah, I'm just not spending it. Like, because the problem is there's always going to be a tipping point, right? You know, there's 4 strips, there's trainers with Celtic on it, there's games, there's Champions League games, there's always something to spend your money on. So rare Celtic cards, they get a cut of that. Like there's always, but like people are not going to continue to push the boat out from their own point of view when they see the team operating or the hierarchy operating in a way where they're just stacking up cash and just leaving the team short. Because we're not even talking here about like saying, oh, we want to sign somebody for 15 million and we want to go daft. We're talking about replacing somebody we've actually sold. You know, like it's a bit mad. And so I'll give you an example. I can't remember if I mentioned this last week, but maybe like obviously Bruges were selling Jashari. He was really good against us. So they were negotiating with AC Milan and they wanted like 35 million euros or whatever. And there was loads of negotiations. But sure enough, the week before, Stankovic comes back. He used to play with Bruges. So Inter Milan, they went and got him for 10 million. He was in, and the other transfer was still slushing about. Then Jashari went. So by the time Jashari left, like Stankovic was already signed. Like, why can we not operate like that? Like that's, you know, we've got money in the bank. We're supposed to be preparing for a season. And obviously Rodgers really sort of was at pains to say that as well. It's not just about getting somebody in. Like you want to get somebody in, get them familiar with the group. This is the way we like to play. These are the patterns or whatever. This is the way we like playing now. Like, you know, just bring them in and say, oh, by the way, a game that's worth 50 million tomorrow night, you want to go in? Like it's a bit mad of a way to run a club that's got that amount of resources, but there we go.
The part of the frustration is, like you say, like we could have done this deal a long time ago and just get embedded in. But part of the chat again, and some of you guys have jumped on this comment and said, well, if we're signing somebody, maybe somebody's leaving. And this picture came back into my mind. This came on my timeline today. What's being said here? Tilio and Brendan having a wee. Maybe that's Brendan telling him, "You can go the night, son. That's you. It's signed off. Balikwisha's coming, so you can go to Vienna now, and off you trot." Or, and one more thing, I just wanted to laugh at this because I retweeted it earlier. But how funny is this from Livingston posting Celtic tickets are on sale with that picture behind the pole?
The teams definitely in Scotland have got a sense of humour. I see all these like unveil videos and things like that. Like, it's definitely a bit of sense of humour returned, which is quite good.
But I wasn't too sure because Brendan's comments as well in the press conference, McBride, again, we were chatting about this before we came on, is he said it'll be a strong team that plays Falkirk, but he is also thinking about, he said, players that have been later back than other ones for a start. And he said he wants to think about the Livingston game as well, because anyone who plays, he's got Falkirk, Kazakhstani team at home, and then Livingston, and he's going to have to manage the squad. He doesn't want to put anyone into the Livingston game that hasn't got up to speed on the pitch yet. Okay, so there's a few different players that fall into the reckoning. That quote made me put Tilio along with that picture earlier on. I thought maybe Tilio's being told you're going to play against Falkirk. I thought maybe that's what he was getting told, but maybe he's getting told we've signed Balikwisha. You're on your way to Vienna, wee man.
Book your flights.
Get your agent on the phone to Jet2 or whatever and get yourself out there. But, you know, he was quite adamant we're going to get a strong team. He was adamant the team will be strong, but he's admitted he's not giving us the platitudes of it's one game at a time. He's telling us quite clearly he's got one eye on Livingston. He's managing the squad. He wants to get players up to speed to maximise the entire kind of thing. I don't know about you, McBride, but the first player that springs to my mind when he says that, Tilio aside, so that's a bit of a joke, is Jemai Simpson-Pussy, who's just in the door. He's like, you know, the last one in. And in comparison to the rest of the defence, hasn't played as much in pre-season, even at that. Did you have any thoughts on JSP playing against Falkirk and anyone else you would throw into that bucket of Rodgers wants them to get prepped up for Livy?
Maybe not so much Livy, but I'd like to see Sinisawo getting some games. Like, I thought he was actually pretty good towards the end of last season. And, like, you know, if you're not going to give a guy games, like, no disrespect to Falkirk, but you know, you're home against Falkirk, like when are you going to play him at all? You're just going to wait until Schmeichel's injured and just so like whatever, you know, touch wood that doesn't happen. So I think maybe a chance of playing him. I think like actually like Jamai, I'm not going to pronounce it the way you pronounced it. Him and Trusty would probably make a lot of sense because Trusty's been coming on a bit, so he has had some minutes, but he's not really had like a full game. So you know, does he think that Trusty needs some minutes? And then maybe Trusty would play against Kairat and Scales would come in against Livingston for that kind of... He seems to favour Scales for that physical presence. And obviously when you're playing against teams like Livingston or even Aberdeen with the big guy who had up front, they were all pretty strong. So, you know, it possibly would make sense to switch that about a bit. And it's not really his style, I guess, to muck about so much with the centre-halves, but you know, he brought in a guy there from Man City and he's going to have to play at some point, you would imagine. So get him in there. And then Tierney, I mean, he doesn't seem to be able to last out a game at the moment. I guess we've been sort of in a sort of fortunate position where we're 2-0 against Aberdeen and he's just not taking any risks or whatever. But seems to be after like 60, 70 minutes, he's blown out his backside. So maybe just he's not played as much football and he needs to get up to proper fitness. But what we're going to do out there, you know, because Inan Mura's not even really been in squads, has he? So
exactly. So I was just kind of looking at it there. So we play Falkirk Friday. The first game against Kyogo is Wednesday. Yeah. So we go Friday, Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday. So that's 4 games in like, is it 10 days or so? Give or take. 15th to the 23rd. No. Wednesday, 26th. Yeah, so it's 11 days. 4 games in 11 days with 8,000 miles of a trip in amongst it. It's good that we're playing Livy at home. It's good that we're playing Falkirk at home. So at least there's not too much there. And obviously we go to Mordor after we're done with Kazakhstan, which, you know, I guess we'll be acclimatized to it, you know, at that point, you know, which is hopefully good. But I think the Tierney one is the most interesting because one of the things I've been saying on the channel quite a lot is Tierney's not going to play 5 or 6 games a month. He's got 2 on the book already. And, you know, this month maybe isn't a clean month because of the way, you know, it's a wee bit later when the season started in the month, as it were, and the extra pile up in fixtures here. But I don't see Tierney playing Falkirk, Kazakhstan, Levy, Kazakhstan. I don't see him doing that at all. Even at the 60-minute shift that he's been put on, I think I don't think he'll play. Let's see what happens. But if you were to ask me to forecast it now, I'd say Tierney plays Champions League and doesn't play Levy or Falkirk right now. So your fancy Trusty to come in. Does that maybe mean Scales plays left back, or do we actually get Inamura finally returning to the squad? That will be very interesting to see. Maybe Tierney plays Livy but doesn't play Falkirk. I could imagine that perhaps also. But I don't think Tierney plays all these games from the start.
I think probably Scales. I'm not saying that he's the best fit for it, but you're just having to go on these previous matches. And if he said he's going to go quite strong, then like, you know, look at who we've put out there already. I mean, obviously we're just we're playing guessing games and things there. So what does he do? Maybe does he start Tierney and just gives him like, you know, a half or 50 minutes and just gets some game time into his legs, and then plays him against Kairat and then rests him against Livingston? Or does he just say, you've had 2 good games here, he could even just sit in the bench, right? He could come on and play 15, 20 minutes at the end or whatever to keep his legs going. So I think you'll definitely see. I think Jamai's definitely in line for some game time, because there's only one way to get guys up to speed at this point, and it's to actually get them in amongst it, really. And CCV is one of those guys where you don't want to end up having them on like a run of 10 games that have been Saturday, Tuesday, Sunday, Wednesday, that type of thing. So I think that actually he would be a good one to just get a wee breather into before the Champions League game.
I think so too. So I think left back is going to be a real jury's out question mark situation. I think trusted JSP is a great shout. I can certainly see Sinisalo playing as cup goalkeeper this year, because we got some intimation from him last year that the plan for Sinisalo this season was to get a loan out, but the performances he gave us last year in the absence of Schmeichel, that changed the plan a bit. So you've got to imagine that is factored into, you'll play all the League Cup games to the semi-final or whatever. Same with the Scottish Cup, and we'll maybe play against the bottom 2 teams in the league coming away or something like that. Bottom 3 teams, whatever. So I could see that. Right back's an interesting one, because Ralston got some minutes in the last game. He came on for the last 5-10, I think, wasn't it, for AJ against Aberdeen? And Ralston, same as Trusty, has played a lot in pre-season. He's very much up to speed already. And AJ is like Mr. 90 minutes, you know, for us, very important player. I could see that being, let's see the Tierney thing aside, but I think Ralston, GSP, Trusty, Sinisalo, I could see that sort of defence running out 100%.
Yeah, Johnson was really late coming back, wasn't he? So he'd given him like extra time off because of that Gold Cup stuff, and then he played like 45 minutes or something in pre-season. Then he came in and he's looked pretty good actually. I mean, I think actually he needed a bit of a rest. So he's looked quite solid, and he's been getting forward, getting in amongst the attacking stuff. So that's how would make a lot of sense. But I mean, I think you've got to watch with what Brendan's saying as well and take it with a pinch of salt. Like, what he thinks is a strong team and what we think is a strong team is 2 different things. I mean, it could still be a strong team, but have a hell of a lot of changes, if you know what I mean. You know, because like you have Engels starts, for example, then that's a change. But then he's not started the first 2 games, and like Engels is still a strong selection. Bernardo, or old Bernardo as you call him, he's like, you know, was a bit late coming back because he had that like Portuguese under 21 stuff. McCowan's been like playing pretty well when he's been in. So guys like that, I mean, I think like a lot of that stuff is you know, it would be a heavy rotation, but it's still what you would regard as a strong team.
I agree. I could see, like, again, I'm just going to move it. I can see that being the midfield. Bernardo's not got a minute yet, so surely, like, that's a game you start him. Engels, like you say, hasn't got to start yet, but him and McCowan has been like a pair, you know, in the first 2 games. They've came on together, and again, I've highlighted it on the channel before, but I think Engels on the left-hand side, you just get a lot more out of his range of passing. He seems to enjoy it a bit more. And McCowan, this is the side of the pitch he wants to play on with his left foot. Brendan wants these guys moving on the inside. And Bernardo, as I say, is not got a lick yet. And it's maybe because he's the shadow to McGregor now. So good chance to rest McGregor. You give Bernardo the minutes. I could see, and again, like we're saying, a strong team, but we'll be thinking ahead to Livingston or whatever. Maybe the Livingston game will have some sort of mashup of the Falkirk team and the team we've seen play the first 2 matches, perhaps, just to make sure that we manage the Kazakhstan thing well enough. But I agree, that's a strong team, like what we've built so far, and it's heavily rotated out of its face. he did say in the last couple of press conferences he's happy with the strength and depth and defence. We all know the left back's still a bit of a question mark thing, right? And he said he's really happy with the strength and depth in midfield, and that would be a great demonstration of that.
Yeah, I think so. I think the Tilio thing was a bit weird as well, you know. It's like, oh, we don't want to let you go now, and like then wasn't even on the bench, and like it's just seems a bit unusual. But could definitely see Forrest starting again. I mean, I guess it depends what the plan is for that other game. But Forrest's not been. I think the first game. I think he started on the bench, so it's not as if he's overloaded in terms of minutes. Up front, it'll be interesting. Like personally, I would start Shin. I think like obviously Ida's sort of searching for confidence, so he'll maybe want to get in amongst some goals, but I think like he brought Shin on the last game, which was a small change from the first game where he brought on Kenny. So, you know, you could easily just see Ida sitting on the bench and just have like a mixture of Kenny starting, Shin coming on, or vice versa, or whatever. I don't know. I mean, I guess he could put Shin in the Dyson position and put Yang in the other side, but like I think when he played there for Frontale, he was kind of like talking about playing out of position, and you know, I think he is more of a striker. So yeah, we'll see. Could definitely be some changes anyway. I mean, we said at the start it'll be a pretty strong team, and we'll just change like the whole 11. Quinny, like it's like just change the whole 11. It's the reserves, but it's not the reserves. You know, like Trusty was 6 million, Engels was 11, so like
yeah. I think Dyson's a really big question mark for this one. There has been some transfer chatter around here. His agent's pushing for a move. There's interest in him. Those kind of rumours are still circulating around him. But given the fact of how important he is for the Kazakhstan matches, almost said Shakhtar Karagandhi there, but Kiryat Alma or whatever they're called. I just deleted Tilio, but do you maybe actually? I know you said Shin could play out there. I don't really see him playing out there. I think Shin looks very much like a guy in between the 18 yards. You know, these lines here. Feels like a guy that likes playing in that kind of zone. But guys that joined late, JSP is one of the guys that jumps to the top of your mind. Shin. I think Shin is the same. And I think Ida will be told probably Shin starts this, Kenny or Osmond will finish it. You're going to start against the Kazakhstanis. And then when we're playing Livingston, who knows who starts, but then Brendan will be much more confident to sub Ida off or rotate Ida with any of the other three, however he is going to configure that. I could definitely see Shin starting this one also. But would he start Yang and Forrest? And then, I don't know, you pulling Dyson off the bench? Do you maybe put Tilio or a youth player in off the bench? Does weaken the situation. I don't think Brendan will take it for granted. The treble was a stated objective last season. He's not quite stated that this year. I think maybe for obvious reasons, doesn't want egg on his face, but he won't take it like he's not throwing the towel in. I don't think he would do that. He wants to go far in all the cups. But I think Maida's the toughest one to figure out what happens with that position, because everywhere else there's backup, there's options. You could do this. This guy needs minutes. But with this spot, maybe Dyson and Tierney are 45-minute jobs.
Yeah, I mean, I would play Dyson through the middle, but like, you know, I don't think he's going to do that. Like, even for the qualifying, not for this game. I mean, like in general, do you know what I mean? Like, sure. But I mean, I guess like that could have been forced on him a wee bit too, because we don't really have the wingers that are the attacking players that he's been sort of calling for. So, you know, it's a tough one, but I think like they'll feature, but it might be one of those where it's like a small amount of time just to keep the legs going at this point. And even if some of these guys start, they'll probably not make it past 60. Like, so.
Yeah, quite fair. I'm just thinking as we're talking there, again, thinking back to Brenda's comments, I wouldn't be surprised if it was Inamura. We have seen some points in his Celtic squad management before where, like, if they don't make the squad, not always because they're bombed out, you know, and sometimes it is on the promise of, you start this game on the calendar, mark it, and make sure you're ready for it, because that's when I'm going to need you. So I wouldn't be surprised if, like Inamura, dare I say, maybe somebody like Tilio or whatever. But yeah, I think Tierney and Dyson could be like the 45-minute jobs. Again, I don't see Forrest playing 90. I just don't think he's got that in him, especially with the fixture list that's running up. So Yang and Forrest, Dyson, there's a lot of guys here that you don't, Tierney, like we mentioned. But the rest of the guys can do 90. I've got no problem with that, or I don't think there's a worry that they couldn't do it. But yeah, they're the only ones where it's like you really feel where the depth in the squad is lacking and the options don't seem to be there. Maybe it's scales because we have seen that already this season. But again, I think that's Rodgers in league mode. Don't drop points, keep the clean sheet, just get on with business. We'll play Scales at left back because Scales won't let us down. He won't like get caught. You know, it can. You know, McBride. We've all seen Scales play for the last 3 or 4 years. Of course, he can miss a pass. Of course, someone can do him on a dribble once in a while, but it doesn't let you down. Like, when has Scales ever been really in the middle of a catastrophe for Celtic? I can't think of any, really. You know, maybe a missed pass, like I say, in a header or whatever, but when I don't think he's ever been taken out the game and skinned and left us vulnerable and left hanging and twisting in the wind or whatever. So I think that might be like Scales, just get us through these games at left back. Inamura, that, you know, will give you a shot at Falkirk. And maybe that's the final part of Inamura's like audition. He's played those preseason games, looked all right, but now it's a time for, right, we're going to put you against Falkirk, and if you can do what you did against Cork and whoever else he played, I forget, then you're in as backup. We'll take you. If not, we're loaning you out and we're signing somebody. Could be something like that, maybe.
It's frustrating as well because he is really a sort of ball progressing centre half, like, you know, but like, I think he has played a bit of left back, but I suppose a bit of sort of rough diamond in that he's only come out of university and played, what, I think it was like 8 months or something. He's like basically first season in the J League. So pretty interesting piece of scouting and recruitment. Because I don't want to harp on about it, but like we definitely are identifying like some pretty good players with like him, Nigel, etc. And I think everybody's kind of enjoyed watching Inamura playing pre-season. The one that's on there, I think like I'm just in my head now, think that Forest is a pretty much of a stick on to play against Kairat because it's just such an important game. I think that for a game like that, you need like your sort of experienced guys in there, you know, the guys that know how that atmosphere is going to be, how important it is to the club. You know, Yang obviously try to bring him on and try to allow him to improve, but he's quite inconsistent. Whereas James Forrest not like, you know, always a world beater or whatever, but you know what you're going to get. You know, he looks after the ball well and makes good decisions, and he doesn't really muck things up very much, and he's pretty reliable. So, you know, in the absence of signing somebody that's just a complete standout, you're thinking, yeah, he's got to start or whatever in the next couple of days. Like, even at that, I think if somebody comes in, Forrest probably starting, then that person may well come on or whatever. We'll see who that is or if anything happens at all.
Yeah, because I think Forrest has just got the experience for this. I think I'm right in saying he scored the winner against Shakhtar Karagandhi. He was also involved against Astana with Brendan Rodgers' team as well. So, like, the away element of the game, he'll be familiar with. I think it'll be very important for that. But even for the home game, Forrest has played an untold amount of Champions League qualifiers in his legendary Celtic career. You know, he's used to playing all these teams, knows the problems that they bring, knows the focus you need for it. And again, he's not going to play 90 minutes, I think, in very many matches this season, Falkirk or Kairat or whatever. But when he's on the pitch, Forrest, you know where he's going. It's towards goal. He makes good decisions. He beats people. And I think for the way the squad's sitting at the moment, he has to be kind of first pick for that situation. So, yeah, I think you're spot on there. He'll be a very important player over this running, for sure. The striker one is interesting. Osmond is getting a shout in the chat saying he played very well in the B team. I couldn't believe I seen him listed in the B team. I thought, wow, the boys went from winning a cup or something like that with Fulham, playing in the Premier League under-23 division, Premier League 2, whatever it's called, to playing, I don't know who it was, but, you know, it's a Lowland League team. Again, oh, no, he played Clyde. It was Clyde in a cup, I think, wasn't it? It wasn't quite a Lowland League team, but it must be thinking, what the fuck is happening here? You know what I mean? I've been signed to be number 3 striker and I'm playing against bloody Clyde, you know, for the B team. So again, maybe he's comes back into the fold for this. I don't know. But if we didn't see Ida play Falkirk, would that be a shock? Because Ida needs a goal.
I mean, maybe he's just getting minutes into Osmond's legs. I don't know. Like, could Osmond maybe start left wing? I don't know. I've not seen enough of him. He looks kind of like a striker as well, really, doesn't he? But he's got a bit of pace, so maybe you could like start him on the left or the right. I don't know. Don't really know him enough. about him. So there we go. But I do think there'll be guys in there to get minutes and just to, yeah. I mean, so we need to be careful. Falkirk are decent, right? I mean, they're up there in merit and played some good stuff, and
we do have Scott Bain in goals.
I just play the reserves.
The amount of money we've paid that guy, he owes us,
Listen, we all know he's rubbish, right? But I mean, fair play to him. I mean, he's like, some of these guys have careers. Like, if it was the guy who was at Carson or whatever at Man City, and he's won like all these major honours or whatever, and he's like earned all this money, and he just never ever actually even played a game for them, or like, so whatever. Like, good luck to him. I don't mind that at all. Hope he gets a good round of applause, or I don't know, like, he's been starting in the league, maybe they'll go Hogarth, I don't know, like maybe they'll give Hogarth, because for the first game there was a bit of chatter about whether or not it was going to be Bain or Hogarth, so we'll see who actually starts, but yeah, good luck to him, but he's rubbish, so anyway.
He definitely owes us one, I would say, and if we don't play Osmond, why the hell did we sign him? Yes, a good point. I think if Ida doesn't play this one, I would be surprised. I would be shocked, because the guy needs a goal. The guy needs a win from somewhere before that big Champions League qualifying game where he needs to be the man. He needs to lead the line for us,
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be surprised. But on the same token, he has fancied giving Kenny minutes. He said Kenny earned the minutes against St Mirren from this pre-season work, and I don't think he's really done much to really change the situation thereafter. And the comments, I think, lend itself to GSP, lend itself to Bernardo, lend itself to Shin, in particular, getting the minutes in this one. So if Shin did start the game, I don't see him ever going two up top. It just doesn't seem to be something he's ever thinking about doing, no matter what stage of the game we're at, or who's available on the bench, or subs he wants to make. So between all four of them, I only see two of them playing, and it's partly like, who does he want to help us against Livingston? Also, is like he's already admitted, So I think Shin is a huge person he's thinking about in that regard. But Kenny and Osmond, I think Kenny's ahead of Osmond as it sits at the moment. But like the chat's saying, like, why, if you're Osmond and you're now finding yourself in the B team, you would be thinking, what the hell have I done? So, and again, maybe the B team minutes were to prep him for this. We'll soon see, I suppose. But the striker one is a real brain teaser. It's a real head scratcher of what he's planning on doing with all these guys. Not even just this like next 11 days or whatever, but period, because 4 centre forwards, when you only play one of them, is one too many for most.
I do think maybe somebody will go on loan at some point, but I think it's, dependent on who comes in, and with this game in particular as well, it depends on the game state. Like, if you score a couple of goals in the first half, then you've got a bit more freedom to do what you want to do, So say Ida sat on the bench, like, you've still got him there. I mean, I think there was who was it we were playing last? Was it even the Falkirk game? I can't remember, but I remember a cup game last season where we were 2-1 down or something at home, or we were 2 each, and Ida come on and he did pretty well. So sometimes having those guys in reserve just in case is also a good plan as well, because you think you've got somebody on there who you would think in a game like a cup tie like that can sort of change the game a wee bit as well. So I think there'll be a lot of changes. It's a big, the big games coming up, but also it's a quick run of games, and also I don't think that there'll be a lot of guys that are fully firing in terms of like sort of match fitness and sharpness and things like that. And you've seen with Tierney, like, he doesn't seem to make it past 60-70 minutes just based on out and out fitness, etc. And that might improve obviously as he gets up to like full speed. So I think there'll be changes, and then there'll be obviously more changes either at halftime or 60 minutes or whatever, and you'll find in between that's going to be 6 or 7 people at least rotated, if not more. So
yeah, totally. Be a real squad endeavour, and we've seen Rodgers do this already last season, where he really uses the squad and rotates them around. So again, like I was saying this, I forget where, but see, when we signed Engels, I remember people going nuts last year because of the fee. Like, we spent 11 million quid on a guy from Augsburg or whatever, as if like, spending 11 million quid is like spending 100 million essentially. But the point I was kind of making at the time around just the fee in general is we want that to get quite normalized. We should have guys that are like 8 million quid on the bench, in reality, that's just the way the transfer market is, the way world football is at the moment, and the amount of money we've got flowing in and out of the club anyway, just means that we should be able to do that. And when you get to that position, doing stuff like this, where Trusty starts this game, GSP starts the game, Bernardo Engels, that's when you feel like you're getting your money's worth out these guys, where, they can look like a first team without it being the first team.
Yeah. And Engels, I think he'd like quite a few good games in Europe as well last season.
Yeah.
Like, I think he enjoys that. He enjoys that sort of big game atmosphere. And he was always like, I think it was the Bayern game or whatever, I can't remember, Leipzig game, but like, it would be like sort of trying to get the crowd involved and things. Like, he was involved in it. Like, he was really getting in amongst that. So like the fact that he started on the bench a wee bit at the start of the season, like that should be like, Brendan managing him a wee bit as well, because he is a guy who does like the kind of box to box shift. So he does put in a good shift in there as well. And also part of his development. I mean, he's a young guy, and sometimes to keep these guys hungry, like you need to just set them out a bit as well. And he might be sitting there looking at a game going, why is that guy in Agron playing in front of me, and looking at him and looking at what he's doing, and maybe that will spur him on a wee bit as well. But we've got a big squad already, like without signing other guys, like the numbers there you're showing, like still a pretty big squad. And I think in a game like this, you've got to, it's no disrespect to Falkirk, like you've just got to use it. If you're not going to do that in a game like this, like when are you ever going to actually do it? And okay, Livingston at home and all that sort of stuff as well, and it's between those important games, but results permitting as well, you want to maybe start that game and get a good foothold in the game and then be making the changes, rather than going into some of those other big games like on the back foot, or going through a banana skin. And whilst we've not been like looking as if we're going to score 7 or 8 goals or whatever, the first couple of games have been pretty solid, and you can see the advantage of bringing in Tierney as well.
Yeah, agreed. And I think this is like, because like we've had like Rangers signing all these players, and it's like, they might be bridging the gap, and they might be competing with Hearts for second all of a sudden when they were maybe written off beforehand. But we've just been quietly getting on with business still, getting the points on the board, making things happen, and see if we can progress in the cup, rotating the entire blooming team to this extent. It is a pure flex. It's a Celtic kind of flex that we've had the luxury of doing over the last couple of seasons. And it's the sort of thing that Brendan really loves to see. Somebody mentioned, I've still got it on screen, the bite from Engels. I was at the St Mirren game, and I thought Engels came on with a really good energy into the match. He didn't really have many on-the-ball interactions. I don't think he really did much in the time he was on, but he had a good kind of zip about him. He had a good energy on him. It looked the same in Aberdeen, but I was watching it on the TV, so it's kind of hard to see the same thing. When you're at the game, of course, you can watch them off the ball a bit better and see what positions are taken up, etc. But I think we're like Celtic fans. I love the standards we hold to the club in terms of like how we melt down over no business getting done and all the stuff that we've been freaking out about for the last couple of weeks. I don't mind it. I love it, because see, if we didn't, they would get away with it, and they would like phone it in, and it would be even worse, But it's lovely when we can be like that, and then we still beat people and don't. We've not even conceded a goal yet this year. I know we've played 2 games, but we're just putting the flex on, in a big way. This is us with no firepower, with no strikers. We've done no business. All we've done is sell players, and we're still just flexing the bicep on everything.
Aye, I mean the back line. It's not even as if we're really looking as if we're in a lot of trouble or whatever. I mean, that guy who's playing up front for Aberdeen's just. They're obviously going to sign somebody else. Like he's just an impact player or whatever. He was rotten, but they brought on, like, I think they ended up having, like, it was started with Keskinen, I think, and then Shane Morris come on, is it like, and he's a guy who's causes problems. So they do have guys there that can cause issues, but we handled that test pretty well. And then Rio come up with a moment of magic. I mean, like. Just like he's not on the screen just now, but like I don't know how you feel, Quinny. I mean, Hatati's like one of my favourite players, but he frustrates the life out of me as well. He really does. Like he scores that amazing goal, but for large parts of that game, he didn't really seem as if he could pass the ball 7 yards to anybody else. But there we go.
It was one of those games where like he didn't make every pass. I think he lost more possession against St Mirren pardon me, against Aberdeen than St Mirren. But I think that, I don't know, it definitely was more frustrating. I did say in my breakdown of the game that he's lucky he scored the goal, in the sense that if he didn't score the goal, it would have been one of those games that people just say, oh, Tati did nothing in that match. He was pretty good, but he wasn't, like, the Gren felt like he drove the game a bit more. You know, they felt like the game, like, attacking wise, came through in the Gren a bit more. I've just changed my battery. Sorry. Oh no, I've not. Oh no, I have. I thought I just put the dead battery back in, but I didn't. So I think like Hatate, I think he's got a bit more freedom to be that. And I know it annoys a lot of Celtic fans when he loses possession and whatever, but I think he's got a bit more freedom to be that way again. Having someone like Negren alongside him who can be a bit more direct, whereas Hatate is a bit more like knitting the play together and trying that kind of cutting ball down the channel or whatever. He tried one of those little flicks around a wee back Healy thing and he lost possession for it. And it just gave me mad flashbacks. I'm like, yeah, that's why Celtic fans used to get pissed off with him, because he used to do that like 6 times a match, you know. Now he maybe does it once or twice at the most, you know. So I think he's cleaned up his game in a big way. But I think it's because he's got Negren alongside him. He's got someone to shoulder the burden. Whereas last year, like, Engels doesn't have that kind of attacking threat prowess. I'm not saying he's not got a good eye for a pass or whatever, but when you're talking about dominating a team domestically, Engels isn't that guy that gets in between the lines and pushes something, makes something happen, slides someone else in. He's a part of the machine. You know, he'll go to the places Brendan wants him to. He'll play the balls Brendan wants him to. Whereas Hatate, in that situation, is the only guy that might just shoot from the edge of the box, might just play that blind pass that no one sees coming. But when you've got Negren as well to kind of, you know, if I don't do it, maybe he'll do it. You just get maybe Hatate being a bit freer to just go with the flow rather than, I've got all this to do myself, I better not mess it up. I better make sure everything I do is effective over chancy, or I don't know what the right word is to say there, but I think you know what I'm driving at.
Yeah, I mean, like for large parts of the game, he was rotten. Like see if you I noticed a lot. I actually looked at the stats and stuff, and like, I don't mean like try to play these risky passes or whatever. It was like 5-yard stuff to somebody that's there, and just mind blowing how he'll have that moment of quality where he'll put it in off the bar. There's other moments. There's a guy like standing like 10 yards away, and he'll just play a daft pass that's just a straight pass. But like, I mean, like I guess like if he was amazing at all that stuff, then like he probably packed his bags already by way to somebody else. I don't know, but still think he's really pretty good. And Nygren obviously coming in, you know, gives us that other option. Dare I say, there's a comparison, but like some of the stuff that we lost a wee bit when Matt O'Reilly, you know, left, you'll not be able to do all the things that Matt O'Reilly did, because he was really quite good all around, obviously, but he offers some of that stuff which I think will help this season, you know, because, and I did like, you know, I really like disappointed myself as well and watched a few of the other halves games too. So I watched although I enjoyed the Dundee game, so like I did enjoy it right until the end and like the usual penalty and all that sort of stuff. But I kind of interesting watching that stuff. But yeah, we look pretty well organised, and we're playing a certain way, and we're controlling games and stuff. And when you start watching other teams, you just sort of realise, like, you know, okay, we've got these things we've got to sort out and improve at, but the basis is there, and it's just the frustration of we want those last pieces to kind of improve, and, you know, I just replace Kuhn. Just replace him. I mean, he got over 30 goal contributions last season, and whether or not you thought he was rotten in the second half of the season or not, he had a really big season for Celtic, and he contributed a lot to lots of stuff. For example, remember we were playing away against Atalanta, and he was defending with Alistair Johnston, and, you know, you don't get a lot of wingers in world football that will do the hard graft going backwards and stuff like that as well, and also get 30 goal contributions and stuff. And you might not have always looked the happiest of guys, but I think that's just his demeanour in general, to be honest. Like I think he put in a lot of shifts. We were at do you go to the Bayern game with me as well? I think we did, and where you were saying like
Bayern home was weird.
FC Bayern Munich, I was still doing my nut in. But like even in the first half, like, you know, tactically he was playing very, very deep as a winger, you know, because we were a bit scared of Sané and Elise, which is like completely reasonable because they're just absolutely amazing. So you see what happened with Greg Taylor's one touch and Elise just absolutely, you know, that guy is just like one of the best forwards in world football. He's brilliant. So, but yeah, my point was like Kuhn obviously contributed to a lot of that stuff, and you know that's the type of stuff you've got to replace and build in again and get ready for, you know, hopefully a lot of these big games that are going to come up. So
I've just dropped a poll in the live chat so you can vote away, right? I'm going for who's going to play up front, and I'm talking about across the 90 minutes. So I've put them in pairs. We've got Ida and Shin leading the vote. We've also got Shin and Kenny, Shin and Yamada, and then I've done Ida and Yamada, Ida and Osmond or Kenny, whatever one might be fortuitous enough to come into it. So drop the votes if you're in the live chat with us, and we'll see what you guys think before we lovies and leavies. We've only got 32 likes, guys. The first magic number we're looking for to make sure Celtic win at the weekend is 67. Once we get to 67 likes, we know it's going to be a good match. If we can get to 88 where we're on live as well, we know we're going to smash somebody. And if you're watching this after we've been on live as well, of course, once we get past 100, we're looking to sail into the stratosphere. The way YouTube works, if they see lots of you guys in the live chat and they see lots of you hitting the like button, they think, oh, those guys are having a bit of a party. They're having some fun. Can we find some more jungle gyms to go and hang out with that channel? And it just helps the channel grow, basically. So if you've not done so already, hit subscribe, get involved, help the channel. It really does mean a lot. And vote in the poll. Let us know what you guys think. Who will be the two strikers we will see feature from the start and then from the bench against Falkirk? Let us know your thoughts and feelings down in there with that as well. I was going to roll on to... I was going to pick up from what you were chatting about there, but it's just fell out the back of my head there. Sorry, McBride, just getting the poll put out there.
Transfers? No.
Transfers. So someone also in the chat asked, so the Gren has been high quality, right? A bargain because of the contractual situation he's in. A link that I've not really seen on my timeline, but is always in the comment section and always in the live chat, is Mayashiro of Vissel Kobe. 25 years old. His contract is up in December. And he is rated at like Celtic price, like €1 million or something right now. He's been on fire for Vissel Kobe. A much more central player rather than a wide player, though, Mayashiro. So it feels like it fits, but it also doesn't fit. It's the same as Jacob Briem. He's not really a winger, but like, you know, so that's a weird one. Do you have any thoughts or feelings on Mayashiro?
Well, we'll no need to phone DD because it's under 3 million. So apparently we can just go ahead and sign him. So yeah, that'll probably be done tomorrow, and we'll have signed he-haw else. Yeah, I mean, he's pretty good actually. I think at that price, like that's a bit of a no-brainer signing, to be honest. I know we've signed other guys like Kobayashi and didn't work out, but they're not like high-risk moves or anything. It's part of the overall model where you get somebody in if you do pretty well. You know, if you can get 6, 7, 8 million back for him, whatever, good. You'll contribute towards squad, develop, all that type of stuff. Briem, Balikwisha, I mean, I don't think any of them are really out and out wingers. I mean, I think Balikwisha's played wide, and so has Briem. The thing with Briem you've got to be careful of is he's only 19, right? So, you know, he's come into Go Ahead Eagles, and a lot of his best stuff has been as like an attacking midfielder, but he is only 19, and he's already one of the best players in the Eredivisie. So, you know, if we're going to go and get that type of talent, then good. And I think he can do the sort of roles that we're looking for in terms of the winger. Because like you look, for example, at the moment, like Kieran Tierney's bombing on. So you're not really looking for somebody to be playing out and hugging the touchline, because that's kind of where he is. And then we used to see that thing I always mentioned with Kuhn and Johnson, where, you know, Kuhn would be on the ball and then Johnson would be bombing down there, and he would either be looking for the ball or he would be running somebody away so that there was space inside. And I can see Nygren doing more of that going forward, whether he starts in that position or not. So if that's the type of players we're going for, then maybe there's just been a conscious decision made to say, right, we've got like Dyes and these
side wingers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the like guys like, you know, Paddy Roberts, just I mean, even Jota. I mean, like he plays Jota on the left, right? And I remember, like, obviously previously you had like, remember it was at the cup game where Maeda sort of harassed somebody, crossed it over, and Jota came in and he headed it in. And then there was points in some of those games where actually like they would just switch. They would just go, he's on that side and he's on that side, and they would mix it up and stuff like that. So just from a tactical point of view, it's quite interesting. Obviously, Jota's going to come back, but like he's not going to be back until after Christmas or something, is he? Like, so it's still going to be a bit of a wait, I think, before he's actually like even in training. And then with those types of injuries, it's like you don't come back into training and then turn up in the field next week. It's like, oh yeah, you're still another 4 or 5 weeks away, and then getting game time and stuff. So I don't think we'll see him until around about Christmas. So yeah, we've got to manage this period going forward. So
he'll be like a new signing again. He'll be another January signing for us, Jota, won't he?
don't use that crap. You'll get a job on the board soon. Don't you start that rubbish. Here he is, biscuit tin Quinny.
Maybe. If only. I think if I got into the board, but I'd be pretty good at sneaking those little ones we should do and get them done quickly. Get them on the cheap, get them on the sneaky. Another little side note, I suppose, we've seen Lennon Miller completed his deal to Udinese this week. Probably the worst team that were linked to him. And I don't know what happened to the other teams, if maybe they didn't quite stump up the money Motherwell wanted. Or maybe it was, sorry, just the chat's getting me to, or maybe it was just some of the other stuff where it isn't really that solid or that materially important. I think Udinese is a good landing spot for him. But again, a lot of Celtic fans are coming out like, 4.5 million, we should have got him. It's not really, with where the team is at the moment, it's like, where does he play, man? Let's just be real about it.
Yeah. I mean, if we had the chance to sign him and he wanted to come at 4.5 million, I think that's like a bit of a no-brainer. Everybody knows he's good. But you see with these guys, like they've followed that path, and he's obviously pretty confident that he's going to go there. So I watched the interview with his dad, is it Lee Miller, isn't it? So he was kind of talking about how he had other offers, but he didn't want to get ahead of himself and he wanted to play because he felt as if he was still young. So he's going doing that thing where he's kind of going there and he thinks like, I want to be kind of one of the main men at Udinese rather than going to somebody that's bigger than that. Like Matt O'Reilly's linked with Juventus and stuff now, and like, he could go potentially to a bigger team, but then he's just going to be like a youth player or whatever again, whereas he's been used to playing at Motherwell. He's developing, he's obviously enjoying it and stuff like that. And I think he lost his mum when he was quite young as well, which is really tragic. But his focus seems to be like playing football. He wants to play for Scotland, all that type of stuff. And good luck to him. I think he'll be absolutely, honestly, like people just constantly go back to that and say we could have had that guy for 4.5 million and he'll look really, really good. But it's maybe a bit too simplistic, because if he didn't want to come into those conditions in Celtic where he was just a rotation player and stuff like that, then, there's no point really talking about it. But I think we should have maybe tied him down a bit sooner. Like, for example, a year and a half ago or whatever, what a really well-run like big club would have done is just went to Motherwell and said, we'll give you like 2 million or something with a sell-on clause, or 2.5 million, but we'll leave him there for a while. You can serve his apprenticeship at Motherwell, and we'll see how he develops. Then he'll come to us, and then all of a sudden you own him. But at this stage, it doesn't really seem as if he was interested in coming to Celtic. So there we go.
Yeah. And I think now that he's Udinese, I put a tweet out yesterday, didn't really get many interactions, maybe nobody's seen it. But at Udinese, especially with the credentials we've seen of him at Motherwell, this could be the birth of the Scottish Rodrigo de Paul that we get, loves a set piece, loves to control the middle of the pitch. Udinese obviously formerly had him. A lot of similar attributes on paper, at least anyway. Similar, different, but similar players. But yeah, all the best to him. And yeah, it's probably one that we were never really into in general.
Sorry to cut you off you there, Quinny, but they sold Thovan, I think, to Lens as well. So he went to France. So like when you're talking about that role, like I think actually like once he gets settled in, that'll be the role he'll actually play, because Thovan was like involved in a lot of stuff. And
Samardzic, who they sold to Atalanta, who they bought because they couldn't get O'Reilly, so he's kind of walking into that Samardzic role as well. Thovan, of course, it was up front, but similar kind of playmaker vibe, isn't he?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think he'll do well, and obviously the in Italy they're looking at our players here a wee bit, like you said, like we do sometimes look at Japan and think it's maybe like an undervalued market and stuff, and they like the way those players like stack up with their type of game over there. Scott McTominay get a nomination for the Ballon d'Or.
It's wild, isn't it?
He was brilliant, but like it's just quite funny, that stuff. Anyway, moving on.
Big time.
Biscuit
Yeah,
fun.
the Serie A Scottish club has got another member. Sadly, not a hoops player, but wish him all the best over there, playing for Udinese, who are maybe the Italian Motherwell, just in the whole food chain of Serie A. You know, maybe not even, maybe quite a similar club in terms of the relative standing or whatever. The only other thing I've seen in the chat as well, Ishmael Soro has been training with Falkirk. So we might see, somebody said it in the chat, can I find it? We might see a midfield tomorrow of Soro and Arfield.
I think me and you need to get our boots out and Quinny will get a game. I said I wasn't going to the game, but if you get some minutes in, dearie me. Anyway. Yeah, so there's a few mentions in the chat as well. Good luck to Dundee United and Hibs tonight as well. So yeah, I feel
efficient.
I mean, I think it's going to be. I suppose, like, you know, Rangers have dropped points already, and everybody will laugh it off and things. But I think it'll be a better season of Scottish football. People might think if Celtic build a lead that it's a bit boring and all that sort of stuff, but I'd like to see like Hibs, Dundee United stuff getting into group phase stuff, and you'll be really interested to see what Hearts do. I mean, like obviously signed Pierre Cabore, and like that guy's got like the same stats at that team or in that league as Promise David had. The guy that was just like ripping it up for USG, and he's worth like 10 million euros or something now. So Hearts are still making some moves, and I think there'll be some excitement and some turning points and stuff this season. Even if we do, and hopefully we do in the next couple of days, go and like get those guys in we want. Like there'll be some challenges. Hibs away is always a tough game at the moment. They were really like one of the form teams. Hearts are looking pretty good. Dundee United, hopefully, they get a result as well. It was a brilliant result away in Austria as well. So, you know, hopefully some of the standards across Scottish football rise, and that ultimately will just help everybody. So
I agree, and it was good that like, if Hibs can be the first Hibs squad to qualify for the group stages, that'd be all good crack. Someone's saying, was Chrissy D, Hibs look better than Hearts. That might be true, but honestly, how many Scottish teams can do all right in Europe and play in the league as well? None of them, you know. So if Hibs look good now, like, don't hold your breath. They can be better than Hearts in the league, because Hearts are just going weekend to weekend, and that is a huge factor for these clubs. We've seen it so many times before. Like Dundee United got into Europa League and didn't even get through the qualifiers, but got relegated from the inertia of it all, you know. And we've seen it so many times in the years gone by, you know. It doesn't work out well. So yeah, like I'm not ruling Hibs out. Hibs, Hearts, Aberdeen, Aberdeen. You know, this Jimmy Teelan guy's probably going to get sacked quite soon. His record has been pretty minging. The Scottish Cup has maybe masked it a little bit, but they've got a good squad there, you know. And if they can steady the ship, they're a team that should do all right domestically. Dundee United seem to have recruited really well. I make you quite right, McBride. It should be, even if Celtic do run away with it, the rest of the league should be mad competitive in a good way. And if we can get some teams actually contributing some coefficient points, then it should be a good season overall, I think.
Yeah, I think like the only really, you know, obviously if some of the teams get through, then they'll just get games or whatever, so that's good. But I think like, you know, it'll be from next season on when Tony Bloom's like really got things rolling at Hearts, because people look at these guys think they've never heard of them, but that's not unusual, right? Like Brighton signed guys you've never heard of, and USG signed guys you've never heard of, and you know, 5 or 6 months into the season, then you've actually heard of them. So, you know, let's see. And I think that genuinely, I really genuinely do, with Rangers dropping points early doors, think that if they give Hearts a lead, like honestly, because it could be one of those, like, you know, watch some of the horse races and they're like, one of them's away up the front and they'll run out of steam. And then like some of the races, you look at it and you go, no, they're not catching them. So with Celtic, Rangers, etc., having all those games midweek, etc., you just never know with Hearts, etc. They got on a run. They look pretty solid at the back. A couple of good midfielders as well. Cameron Devlin, Spittle's pretty good, and they look as if they're building some firepower up front. So what would be the reason why they can't go on a run of beating a lot of the other teams in Scotland? Then all of a sudden they're in the mix. So I think it's going to be a fun season. So,
likewise. Final thing, McBride, a score prediction for Falkirk. I'm going to go 4-0.
It's a difficult one because we're going to be making a lot of changes. I think, like with all the changes, etc., probably about 3-1 or something. But I'm with you. I think we'll win the game quite comfortably, and we'll score a few goals. So,
yeah, I just remembered that my prediction last week was we were going to batter Aberdeen 1-0. It was kind of that game, wasn't it? It ended up being 2-0. So if I'm saying 4-0, maybe I should say 3-0. What did you say? 3-1?
I think I said 2-0.
Oh, you said
you
2-0.
went 1 and I went 2. I think I got it right.
Oh, last week. Last week you said 2-0. You nailed it then.
I think I got it right.
Today, 3-1.
I'm going to go 3-1. I think like there'll be a few changes, and I think like Falkirk, are actually a pretty decent team. So, they're not a complete walkover or anything. They play some reasonable football, and I think they can probably get a goal. But I think we'll get a good few goals and probably have firepower and reserve on the bench. So if it is one of those, it's one each way after 50 minutes or whatever. The big guns will come on, and we'll score a few late. So.
I've just finished the poll in the live chat. 74% of you think that the strikers will be Ida and Shin. McBride's going for 3-1. I'm going for 4-0. In the comment section, if you're watching this after we've been live, leave your score predictions. Leave your receipts on the internet so you can claim next week. I was right, Quinny. Go and check the comments. We'll do that, of course, as always. But yeah, if you're going to the game, travel safe. I hope you have a good time. Enjoy your weekend. We'll be back next week we'll do a breakdown of the Falkirk game. I'm not sure. Maybe have a wee maybe a wee video we make, depending on what happens. But I don't think there'll be a full breakdown analysis like we do for the other games. But yeah, stay tuned, hit subscribe, keep the notification bell on. If you're going to the game, have fun, stay out of trouble and all that good stuff. McBride, absolute pleasure, mate, as well. Thanks for coming on again.
Hail, hail.
Love a wee short outro, don't you? Hail, hail, everyone. Have a good night.
Have a good one. Cheers. Don't